Hello and welcome to another episode of Risky Business. Today we're going to be working on Milton. I'm thinking what I want to do today is start working on implementing a dialog for saving, because if you remember, we currently don't have any ability to save, and I think that would be something that would be useful to us. So here is Milton, and I'm just using my mouse right now, but we can draw and everything, and you can create multiple layers and all kinds of shenanigans, right? But if you go up to this top here, where we have all these menu options, we can do the toggle GUI visibility. I haven't tried too many of these options, but obviously something that would be useful to us would be the ability to save the Milton canvas. And I suppose the ability to open the Milton canvas as well. If we're going to save it, we probably want to be able to open it too, right? I think that would be useful. But yeah, if we do that, it just segfaults because we didn't implement that. We need to implement dialogues. And I believe we want to go with GDK for that. Because somewhere up here, when he was working with this Math Blaster guy, he mentioned that his preference would be GTK. So I have no idea how you pronounce the Papaya developer's name. Apurvage. Anyway, he has a pull request that he received for Papaya, and it added open and save functionality and links with GTK. And so this obviously would be basically exactly what I'm thinking we want for Milton. So something along these lines is what we're going to want to do. And so let's just read through this a little bit and see what all we talk about here. Yeah, okay, so he says right here, functions like platform open dialog need a window manager. I think GTK is the best choice, but feel free to choose something else as long as things stay simple. So we're going to honor his gut feeling of GTK being a good choice, especially considering that we have some example code from Papaya for implementing this. I've not really messed with GTK much, so I don't know much about it, but presumably we can go with this code plus or minus a few tweaks. So we're going to open up our source here. Actually, We should probably pull in the latest. And then we're going to check out our platform Linux file. So the perf counters are implemented by the guy that submitted a pull request. So we're missing platform dialog, platform dialog yes no. Platform open dialog. Platform open link. And platform save dialog. And we want to implement platform open dialog and platform save dialog. Now, I don't know if that is in turn going to require something like platform dialog yes no, like if it asks you to confirm. So we may end up needing to implement more than just open and save. We'll find out. But I want to start out by reading the Windows implementation. So I'm not sure about this cursor show, if that's something we implemented or if that's a Windows thing. It sounds like something that's implemented on the Milton side. So I don't know if we want to do that in our implementation for Linux or not. Presumably we do, but I guess we'll find out, won't we? Okay, so the idea here is it opens a file dialog and returns the path that you selected, which is pretty obvious, I suppose. But what's kind being used for? File kinds. That's some Milton specific structure. It's being passed into Win32 set OFN filter. And that's the only place it's used, right? And let's take a look at the open dialog one. So again, it starts with this cursor show. And it passes the kind into the set OFN filter. And other than that, it's just the Win32 specific platform code to show a dialog and get the result from it. So then, I want to know more about cursor show, and I want to know more about Win32 set OFN filter. So I'm going to check to see if it's implemented here, and it is. So it looks like file kind is actually just a enum that has options between file kind image, file kind Milton canvas. And so that sets the filter, and it sets the extension. Okay, so that would be like, you know, when you open an open dialog and it lets you filter by file type, right? That would be what this filter is doing. And then the extension is the extension. So like if it's an image that the dialog is working with, it does JPEG. And if it's a Milton canvas, which is what we care about, then the extension is .mlt, and it filters by that. So you might want to implement like a Linux set OFN filter, maybe. We'll see. And then what else did we want to look at? We wanted to see the cursor thing. Cursor show. So yeah, I'm gonna move this back over to my other screen, and then I want to see where cursor show is defined. It is defined in sdlmilton.cc on line 30, looks like. Okay, so it's just doing SDL show cursor. So yeah, we're gonna do that in our platform layer. So we're going to start off by assuming we don't need platform dialog or platform dialog yes, no. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and copy the Windows implementation. And then we're going to delete stuff that is specific to Windows. So for example, max path. And this stuff is all Windows. And then the set of event filter, we're going to make a Linux version of this. So first of all, I want to see how GTK does this stuff. Okay, so what we're looking at here is GTK FileFilter add pattern, which is the equivalent. And then there's the GTK FileFilter object that they create. And they add the patterns that they want to the FileFilter object. So it looks like it doesn't have a separate thing for the extension. It just has it part of the file name, which makes sense because on Linux, extensions aren't anything special. They're just part of the file name. So the only thing we care about the OFN set filter nonsense is this GDK filter thing. So do we really need a set filter thing? That is the question. I suppose we do want it, since we're passing a file kind in, we do probably still want to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this platform specific function. And I'm going to put that somewhere before we have dialogues. So I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to call it Linux set GDK filter. And the structure we're going to take is a GDK FileFilter. I'm going to take out the pragmas. And then we're going to do that. And now we have these filter strings. So I want to take a look at the filter strings. Oh, they're right up there. So those are just kind of your typical filter strings. This is platform specific, of course. We have an example of what it's doing for Papaya with GTK. It looks like GTK wants like a regex of the filter that we want. So for JPEG, when we're doing the file image stuff, like if you're saving out an image of your canvas, then we want JPEG. So we probably want these two, right? So I'm going to copy the name of this function here. And I'm going to copy this. And we're going to say filter. And then we're going to want another one of those for if the name has an E in it. So like that. And then do we need to, I suppose we need to do chooser add filter as well. So should we pass the chooser into this too? I suppose we better, rather than telling the call site to do this. So we're gonna pass in a GDK FileChooser. If we can spell. Now, I don't know if he's pretty hardcore about keeping things within 80 characters. It doesn't look like it because this one wasn't 80 characters, right? So I don't think we need to break this into multiple lines. So we are going to do GDK FileChooser add filter. And then we're going to say chooser filter. And so we're going to do a similar thing for Milton Canvas. But with or no, we don't want PNG, we want MLT. Right? It would appear so. So I think this right here is reasonable. Now we're going to go here and we're going to replace that with Linux. Set GDK filter. We need a chooser, a filter, and a file kind, right? Or that'd be kind. And now we actually need to have a filter and a chooser. And we're going to need a dialog for the chooser. And then for the filter, we're going to do that. Now max path. I don't know where they're pulling max path from. Okay, we're defining the max path ourselves. So that's safe for us to use. So we can do that. And now we're pretty close to having a proper implementation here. We just need to actually make the dialog itself. So that's going to be a GTK widget. And then there are a few custom things we want to add to the chooser. And then it looks like you call GTK dialog run with our dialog. Simple enough. But where is it freeing the chooser and the filter? It doesn't look like they do, at least not in this pull request. They destroy the widget at least. So I think we need some GDK documentation. We want to know if we need to destroy chooser and filter, because you'd assume that we do. Maybe you could argue that because the chooser is connected to the dialog, right? Maybe it like registers when it does GDK FileChooser. Maybe this like registers that when you destroy the dialog, it will destroy the chooser. Possibly. I imagine not, but you know, it could be done that way. But the filter just does GDK FileFilter new. So I really think that's going to need to be freed on our end for sure, right? So we want some GDK documentation to confirm this. What is it, a file chooser? Yeah, file chooser. So we're looking for just a GDK file chooser macro. Well, here we have it in a little example. And they're doing a GTK widget destroy on the chooser, but the chooser is what we're passing in to this. Which would be the dialog in our case. So it seems like GDK FileChooser is just an interface. So the pointer to the chooser is actually the dialog, right? And this is actually just casting it. Right, I'm pretty sure this is just casting dialog to a GDK FileChooser pointer. If I'm understanding this correctly. So that would suggest that we don't need to free the chooser because it's just a pointer to the dialog. And that would also suggest that we don't necessarily need to pass the chooser. Well, yeah, we still want to pass the chooser because we're not passing the dialog into Linux at GDK Filter. So that's correct. But we might not need to free chooser. So let's assume that's the case for now and take a look at GDK FileFilter. Because that seems like something we need to free, right? FileFilter. GDK FileFilter. So the documentation for GDK FileFilter new says nothing about it not needing to be freed, which suggests that it does need to be freed. But I don't see any interface to free it. I am definitely confused right now about how GTK is doing memory management. I don't know. The documentation has nothing about destroying the filter that this returns. So I guess we're just going to have to assume that GTK is doing some magic under the hood. I don't know. I suppose we'll have to look into it more at some other point, or just forget about it and let the main developer deal with it. So I suppose we should move along to implementing the dialog. So we're going to do a dialog like that. And then we're going to want to do this stuff here. Now I think that FileChooser set file name just sets the default before you select one. And so this is going to depend on the kind. So I'm just going to say kind is and we could do that in the Linux set GDK filter function, but I don't think we want to because that's more general purpose and we might not need to set the file name for everywhere that would be used. I'm not sure. So for now, I'm just going to do it like this. So we're definitely going to want to do this. And then here we're going to say if GDK dialog run GDK dialog over dialog. And then we're going to say if that is equal to GDK response except so I think I'm going to invert this and say if it does not equal except, then we're going to free save name and return null. Otherwise, we're going to get the file name and we've already allocated a block of memory so we're just going to do a string copy now. I don't know if how he feels about the standard library, if he's cool with the string copy or not. And we'd probably want that to be the string copy with an N because we have max path, right? We don't want it to go over that. But and I'm just going to call this GDK file name. Right, so we're going to do something like this. So that's our basic implementation of save dialog, and I believe I'm out of time today. So if anyone wants to do a Q&A, if anyone is watching, now would be the perfect time for the post stream. So ask away, and I will answer your questions if there are any. If there are not any questions, I'll just call it a day. So it doesn't look like I have any viewers right now, so I believe I will call it a day. So thank you so much for those of you who watched today on Twitch, if there were anyway. And thank you to everyone, of course, who watches on YouTube. I appreciate the viewership, and I hope you're getting something out of the series. Even though we haven't started on Risk 5 related stuff yet, I think it's still fun to see. So I will call it a day now and see you in the next episode. So stay risky, everyone.